I'm just going to walk you through the basic steps involved in a deal, the paperwork that you're going to use for each type of deal. Again, when you're dealing with a private seller and you're wholesaling, the paperwork needed and the steps that you take to close the deal is going to be a little bit different than when you're dealing with a bank-owned property or a short sale, because bank-owned properties, when banks are selling properties, they put a clause, most of them, 99% of them do anyway, they put a clause in their contract that says that the contract can't be assigned. So I'm just going to kind of walk you through step by step how to navigate through the different types of deals. So we're going to start out with private seller deal. This is when you're just dealing with homeowners, okay, not banks, not short sales. The first thing you're going to do is obviously you're going to be marketing for them to call you. I'm not going to get into detail here about the different ways to find motivated sellers. If you look in your bonuses, there is a report there, 50 different ways to find motivated sellers. There are all kinds of different ways that different advertising techniques or marketing strategies that you can use to get sellers calling you. So check out that list, pick the ones that you think that would be easiest for you to do in your market and run with those. So you're going to do your marketing, the calls are going to be coming in. Once you have a seller that is ready to deal, they're ready to get rid of their house and they're willing to sell at a discount, you're going to negotiate a great deal with the seller, okay? And once you have come to an agreement on price, something that works for the seller, something that works for you, where you know that it's a good deal and you can wholesale that property to an end buyer for a higher price, what you're going to do is you're going to use the pro buyer purchase and sale contract. Once you get that contract signed, you and the seller are both going to sign that contract. You're going to give the seller an earnest money deposit. Well, actually, you're not going to give it to the seller. You're going to give it to your title company. You never want to write an earnest money check out to the seller personally. Just write it out to the title company. Have the title company hold it in escrow, okay? You don't want to have the seller cash your check and run off with it. So you want it held in escrow at your title company. So once that contract is signed, the pro buyer purchase and sale contract, you're going to submit that along with your earnest money deposit. Now, probably a lot of you are thinking, well, how much money do I have to give the seller as earnest money? When you're dealing with private sellers, it's completely negotiable. Okay, I have gotten away with giving sellers as little as $1 for an earnest money deposit. It's all negotiable. Typically, most private sellers do not require a large earnest money deposit. I actually don't let them determine it. I just write it into my contract, $10 earnest money deposit or $100 earnest money deposit. But typically when you're dealing with private sellers, you can get away with putting up a very small earnest money deposit as opposed to when you're dealing with banks, short sales, REOs. They typically require $1,000 or more. So submit the contract and the earnest money to your title company, okay? You want them to get started on the title work for the property right away. So if there are any surprises, any liens that the seller didn't know about or didn't tell you about, you're going to know about that quickly. And I know a lot of people also ask me, well, do I have to pay the title company up front to do the title search? No, you don't. That will be part of the, it'll be included in the closing fees, so you don't have to worry about that. Once you have that contract signed, as soon as you get that contract signed by your seller, you're going to start marketing for an end buyer. And hopefully after going through this training, you know exactly, well, hopefully you already have a list of, you've done all of the things that I've taught you to, and you already have a list of buyers. If you don't, start using the strategies that I taught in this course. Okay. Once you have found a buyer and you two have agreed on a price, you're going to assign your contract over to your end buyer using the assignment of contract agreement, okay? And that, again, is included in your bonuses. So what you're doing basically when you're assigning your contract to your end buyer, the assignment of contract basically says that you are assigning all of your rights in the contract that you have with the seller. You're assigning all of your rights over to the buyer. Okay, so your end buyer is basically stepping into your shoes in that purchase and sale contract that you have with the seller. Okay, When you get that signed, you're going to collect your $2,000 or more deposit from your end buyer. Now, you can have them make the deposit out to you or the title company. I prefer to just have them make it out to the title company and hold it in escrow, okay? So you're going to get the assignment contract signed, you're going to collect the deposit. Now you're going to want to give a copy of that purchase and sale contract that you have with the seller to your end buyer, because he is basically stepping into your shoes and taking over that contract. So you're going to give your end buyer a copy of the purchase and sale contract as well as the assignment contract that you just signed. You're also going to give that assignment contract to your title company. Okay, they're going to need that and the deposit. If your end buyer wrote the deposit out to your title company, that all goes to your title company. Okay, so the title company is going to have the purchase and sale contract that you have with the seller, the assignment contract that you've signed with your end buyer, the earnest money deposit that you put up to the seller, and the earnest money deposit that your end buyer gave you. Okay, the title company gets all of those documents. You want to make sure, and this is where a lot of wholesalers, beginning wholesalers, goof up when they're just getting started. Once the title company has all of the documents, everything is signed, everything is ready to go, you don't want to just cross your fingers and hope that the deal closes. You want to stay in contact with the seller, stay in contact with especially the title company to make sure that everything is moving along as it should, and the closing is going to take place on the right day, and there are no liens that have popped up or anything like that. And also stay in contact with your end buyer and keep them informed as to, yes, everything's going along as it should be. We're going to close on time. Okay, so stay in contact with all parties until closing, because sometimes, there are hiccups or bumps in the road, and, things can go wrong. So you want to make sure to always stay on top of your deal. On the closing day, your buyer is going to show up with the cash for the purchase, okay? When you are assigning a contract, you do not have to show up to closing. There is nothing for you to sign. When you assign that contract over to your end buyer using that assignment of contract agreement, you're basically out of the deal. However, I always like to show up to the closings when I'm doing an assignment deal with a private seller, just because I know that the seller and the buyer have never met each other. So I like to be there just to make sure that the transaction closes smoothly. And also what I usually do is introduce the end buyer to the seller as my partner. Okay, so in case they have any questions as to who the heck is this person that's buying my house, I just go ahead and introduce them as my partner, which they kind of are. So again, the end buyer is going to show up with the cash for the purchase of the property. The title company is going to collect that money, and then they're going to cut the seller a check for the purchase of the property, and they're going to cut you a check for your assignment fee. Once you have that check in your hand, you can go directly to the bank, deposit it, buy yourself something really nice, and then rinse and repeat.